Hello everybody, Andrew Casey from Hypersanitybooks, and previously I talked about the Ghostbusters novelization. Now, this video I want to talk about the movie, deleted scenes, original scripts, and the novelization. If you think about these few points, when you are watching movies that you enjoy with their deleted scenes and novelization, you will be surprised how much you can learn with some of the differences, and that can help with your writing, especially when you consider scene trims. Otherwise, let's just get into it. Number 10. Ghostbusters 2 or the real Ghostbusters movie. One of the things that was different, the first movie had a lot of adult matter in it, which was the sort of movie, as a child, I thought I really shouldn't be watching this, but wanted to anyway, because, I mean, let's be honest, we do. Now, with that in exception, a lot of the things had to change. A lot of the swearing was cut out, the sexual references, certain violence and themes. Now, with that in exception, the characters were more based off the real Ghostbusters characters from the cartoon, which also raised a lot of other questions coming forward. The target audience was drastically changed from the first film to the second film, and that really does reflect in this novelization. Number 9. Retroactive continuity. One of the things is, with this, you can look at how a franchise can change. So say with Batman, it has its continuity changed when you consider that Alfred was never a character that looked after Bruce Wayne as a child. It was always as an adult.
It was my fault, Alfred. I made them leave the theater. If I hadn't gotten scared.
It was nothing that you did. It was him.
After Bruce Wayne's parents being shot, you can't look at the story the same way. So, retroactive continuity, when it comes to additives, it adds more to the story by having its change. So that also implies just to the amount of times it took to rewrite the script, and each script does have its few rewrites. Number 8. The Seed. So the subtitle for the original script was called Ghostbusters: The Seed. It was supposed to go to Scotland as a way of getting out of New York and going underground. So that was one concept that you can see came into the final production. So with Ghostbusters: The Seed, it was to have different characters involved, a different setting, and the antagonist was a banshee. That also went into some of the mythology there, with how mushrooms form into certain circles and are considered to be occultic. So a lot of the different subject that he was going into, it was doing something that wasn't done in the cartoon series or any other adaptation. He was also going for a very original idea that hadn't quite been done in film yet. The last of the Ghostbusters. So Bill Murray was actively against a Ghostbusters 3 before the beginning of Ghostbusters 2. So I found that was quite interesting. Number 7. Alternative characters. So to start off with the new script, Vigor was introduced as a Russian immigrant in the early 1900s. It was also revealing two different characters. So instead of being Dana Barrett, it was a baby unknown, and her name was Lane Walker. Then there was, instead of Janosch, there was another character called Jason Loke, which had supernatural powers. Though, with that big twist that was going to come within the script, Vigor was Jason Loke, which was the father of her baby that was still unnamed in the script, and the idea was to possess him. So it showed the generational thing of possessing his offspring, so he's kind of his own grandfather.
I'm my own grandpa. Everybody! I'm my own grandpa.
And this is a vicious cycle, actually, when I stop and think about it just now. Yeah, wow, that is creepy. So, yeah, the Vigor character had a lot more in-depth involvement. There was also other scenes to use the Statue of Liberty as a manifestation to attack, instead of like it was for the final cut. Now, I'm not saying that this script was completely bad. It did have some flaws, there were some interesting points. Instead of the river of slime, it was a swarm of insects as the manifestation of bad things. So you can sort of hear how the story started to develop, and that is something to look at when it came from script change to script change, as what's mentioned with doing retcons. Number 6, Winston's strength.
Photographs, please. Slides are available in the gift shop. Eh?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Winston.
You look at that scene at the museum, Winston is restraining Janosch. He is doing something that the other characters cannot do, and he needs to be restrained in public. I quite like this scene. It worked well in the novelization, but in the novelization there were more scenes where Winston displayed his strength. Infamous scenes that was deleted, which I felt should have been left in, was where after Ray's possessed from this point, they're driving in the Ecto-1. So, yeah, I really thought this scene had something more to it, but right before crashing into a tree, Winston punches him. So he has a different display of dominance with his character, and with his strength, his character was used. When you look at the slime blowers between him and Ray, they're the two stronger characters in the group. It makes sense for them to have something added into the story that was different. But with the novelization, drawing back to that point, Winston's character had a bigger display of strength.
Did you catch the number on the locomotive?
Sorry, I missed it.
They would also ask the question because in the climax when Ray steps in front of the Ghostbusters and is taken by Vigor.
We'd like to shoot the monster. Could you move, please?
Ray?
Ray! Ray! No! I, Ray, am Vigo!
It also raises questions, but it could have been done a different way, so that one scene being deleted worked a lot differently in the novelization to build up more rising action, where Ray was possessed the whole time under his influence, but he didn't sort of know it. So when it came to these particular scenes...
Nice going, Ray. What are you trying to do, drown me?
When you guys had me dangling like a worm on a hook 100 feet below First Avenue, that's the river of slime.
Vigor wants them to find certain information, but he's also keeping an eye on things. And yeah, it's quite interesting how it went from that one point where his eyes change colour in the painting and it moves through the narrative to the climax. The climax worked better in the novelization. Number 5, deleted scenes. Deleted scenes in the for Ghostbusters 2 are in the novelization, and there is other certain scenes and story that are threaded through that do work well and add extra jokes into it. So with this scene where instead of talking to the others outside, it's at the apartment. It also comes to bumping into Lewis afterwards and making a nappy joke as to why the three guys were dressed up the way they were. So there was different perspective to see on things. I like it. I do like this novelization. It is engaging. Some of the scenes that you will see, yeah, they're all threaded in there, every single one of them. Now, there are certain deleted scenes that are not really added into the deleted scenes that are available. Sometimes from the original script, it just got cut thinner and shorter to keep the story engaging, which is also a good thing. Number 4, 2 protagonists. Yeah, this actually was a surprise. Lewis Tully, you would see him as a triagonist, but no, in the novelization, it is written for him to have the heavy focus, for him to be the protagonist, as long as side Bill Murray's character, Peter Venkman. Wow, that was a surprise. Though I don't think it works for the film, it is just better to be left as the novelization, because it changes the whole story. So, back to the other point on, is it Ghostbusters 2 or the real Ghostbusters movie?
Well, I was just trying to catch that stinky green guy.
Oh, he's all right.
We're gonna be in real big trouble if we don't move fast. That ghost guy came in and took that little baby away. It was just a scared little baby.
So it had that feel of what the cartoon had, which just wouldn't work on the big screen for the adult audience. I don't think it would have. Number 3, character deaths. Yes, in the novelization, there is one deleted scene, and there was one deleted scene that didn't add into the cutting room floor. There have been some scripts that have been revealed, but long story short, Haymire, when he's yelling at the slime wall, yes, his character is dead. That is confirmed. That is also something that changes the whole tone of the story. That's why people stand in shock as well, because characters were not supposed to die in this universe. Not like that. So, even though ghosts are people who were dead. Anyways, it changes the tone of the story when there's that type of risk factor involved, which didn't feel like there were those risk factors to say, hey, let's just jump into a river of slime. You know, what's the risk? Yeah, that didn't seem like it made any sense. Moving along, there was another deleted scene, so when their city's under mayhem with the ghosts, there is one scene where a subway train is going through a tunnel and there's a big frog monster at the end to eat the train and people are going to die. So, yeah, that was deleted, but it was never actually revealed as a real scene. It's just been part of the script. Though character deaths do change the way that the story would have worked. Awesome antagonist. So Vigil the Carpathian is an awesome antagonist. Despite people's love-hate for the film, he is a well-done character. But I also feel to some of the earlier scripts, there was so much that could have happened with that character. But back to the novelization, instead of him just not being in the painting anymore and having Janosch stunned, the way he steps out of the painting feels like that rising action is intense. Now, the story does have that anticlimactic finish. It doesn't feel like it has that big fight. Yes, in its own way, it is dealing between the protagonists, characters, all the characters involved, dealing with this problem compared to society trying to deal with the slime wall. Now, I also feel and argue that there would have been something more to that rising action or leading to that final battle that would have had something more involved with the society element. That's what I feel anyway. But with the antagonist of Vigil, yes, he is absolutely an engaging, awesome antagonist. And I think they did a fantastic job creating this character. I also do feel with some of the comparisons, it could have gone a number of ways and it still would have worked really well. So learning from writing an antagonist, Vigil the Carpathian would be one of the best to learn from. Number 1. Comics and cartoons. So yeah, it's a no-brainer from here. It had that wider audience, so of course they made more cartoons. It also had Louis Tully introduced as a character in the cartoon, but again, it sort of dumbed down a little bit, and then it really took a sharp turn, and it dumbed down too much. But if they kept it to the more engaging way and the tougher subject matter, even though the target audience is for children, yeah, I think it was not a bad show. Though, from that as well, there was also the other comics that came out, the real Ghostbusters in Ghostbusters 2. I think that was an interesting take on it. So sometimes when we look at comparisons, and that's what novelizations are really doing, we only really read a novelization for that comparison to the original source material, whether you're reading a novelization to Alice in Wonderland and comparing it from this novelization to the movie, to the original story. Either or, you can learn from reading this sort of story. Otherwise, that's it for today. Hit like, subscribe, comment. And yeah, if you have any other recommendations for novelizations, let me know. Please comment in the box below. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.